Michaels. I just spoke with some of you in our round robin event that we just had, and I'm moderating this session today. This is a presentation of the Nationwide Agricultural Experiment Station Coordinating Group called Health, Wellbeing, and Economic Opportunity for LGBT People in Rural Environments. This is also an extension of the year's work that we've been doing in the Children, Youth, and Family Consortium with Dr. Jennifer McGuire, our scholar in residence, on meeting the needs of transgender youth. So we have spent this past year traveling around the state doing presentations in communities outside of the cities and one in Minneapolis on transgender youth, talking about the research and mental health needs and nutritional needs. And from that, we got a lot of feedback that there's a lot more interest and demand in this topic area. In rural areas for all LGBT youth, and also some of those requests were coming from Extension. So I'm really glad that this group was here. We're really fortunate to have them. The purpose of this committee that you have in front of you is to first create an infrastructure for research and outreach projects across states, and they will talk more about that, and then to create and support a pipeline for people doing this work with LGBT people in rural areas. So this group has spent 2 years developing a plan for their work together, and they're now in their first year of a 5-year approved plan through the Agricultural Experiment Station. And each year they go, as I understand it, to a different location, a different state, and now they're here. And so we're lucky to have them. Thank you all. The way that we're going to do the rest of our time here is I'm going to ask each person to come up here and introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their research expertise, and then what they bring to this collaborative project. So they each have a few slides, and then we have time at the end, plenty of time for question and answer.
Aloha, I'm Andy Riley and I'm from the University of Hawaii, and I'm very glad to be here. I'm going to talk about my research, which is in the clothing and apparel sector. And so what I do is I look at cultural, social, and psychological aspects of appearance and how they relate to behavior or other aspects. So in a general issue, or in general, when we look at LGBT individuals, we know that a appearance is related to one's identity, and appearance cues can be used to express one's sexual identity. Common elements that you may be familiar with are the pink triangle, the rainbow flag, rainbow jewelry, but there might be other ones that are more subtle that are used to identify themselves to others, and not in a public way, but in a way to find the networks that they're looking for in order to establish friendships. So they might be more subtle or not widely known. And some of my research has also looked at the coming out phases and how one expresses or develops an LGBT identity, first acknowledging it or questioning oneself, and then communicating it to others from intimates to a more public arena until finally it's integrated into one's identity. I look at it from the clothing and appearance aspect of how people are using clothing to relay their sexual identity. And what we found is that the coming out phases may correspond to the selection of dress and how it's used and what they wear and what they're trying to communicate about themselves. And the reason I say may is because it was theoretical at this point. And at this point, we're now collecting data to look at it and test the validity of our concept. But then I also look at gender norm violations and what happens when someone does commit what's considered a current gender norm. Well, one aspect is that it's the fear or the actuality of verbal or physical assault. I've interviewed a number of people in the Hawaiian Islands who have been victimized because of gender appearance or violations of gender norms. There's also the aspect of social isolation due to appearance, that nobody wants to socialize with you, you lose friends, people don't understand why you're doing this, that you're trying to gain attention, or that you're just quote unquote plain weird. And the last aspect that's related to this is teasing due to appearance. My next project that is related to this is to look at microaggressions and to see how they're related to one's appearance. And then another separate issue or related issue to this is with trans issues with clothing. And this is a project that I've worked with Jennifer on, who was responsible. She collected the data and then together we analyzed it. And we wanted to look at clothing issues related to trans people. And through these interviews, and we found three different themes emerged from the data. The first one was that the sizing of ready-to-wear clothes or clothing that you buy in the store isn't made or isn't designed for trans bodies. The fit, the silhouette do not align with their desired gender presentations. So oftentimes they are given in incongruent, or they're given mixed signals based on the clothing that they wear. In addition, due to the changes in the body as one goes through different hormone therapies or different gender presentations, you have issues with how the clothing is fit, how the clothing fits, and what are the aesthetics of it based on what somebody wants to wear. So we understand there's a need for designers and retailers and everyone to understand the needs of trans consumers. The second and the third themes were the desire to hide the body, hide anything that might reveal an the incongruency with their gender identity. That could be anywhere from the groin regions to breast regions to shoulders and hips. And then on the flip side, it might be something to reveal the body in order to highlight or emphasize one's identity. But all of this research, for the most part, has been done with except for some research, has been done with populations that were not considered rural, or they were not identified as rural in the research. So there's a need for more research on this aspect to look at it. How does the rural context change or alter this? Thank you. Well, I want to add about gender appearance is that it seems that there is a new third gender that's emerging that is specifically for trans. And what you were talking about with binary, non-binary, even in some of the research that we've done, we found that there are young people who want to be known as trans. They don't want to be known as, they don't want to necessarily transition and then be known as male or female. And the reason for that, as some have said, is that if you only see them as male or only see them as female, you miss a whole lot of who they are, and you miss a whole lot of the struggle that they've gone through. But if you can identify them as trans and people understand they're trans, you understand what their background is and what their life experience has been as well.